All right, been to two more hockey stadiums. Let's talk about them. These are my NHL arena rankings so far. I've only been to six. I'm trying to spread my wings a bit and not just do the local teams first. A lot of the teams on the East Coast are easier to do. You know, Philadelphia, the three New York teams, which includes the New Jersey Devils, Philly, Pittsburgh, Columbus is pretty easy. Toronto, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal. Those are a lot easier to do. So this trip I went to Minnesota, flew into Minnesota, visited Wisconsin, back to Minnesota, went to South Dakota, came up North Dakota, went to Winnipeg. Came back to the Twin Cities and flew home. That was a fun trip. Let's talk about it. These are the updated rankings. Minnesota Wild take over first place on the arena rankings. Boston Bruins second, Washington Capitals third, Carolina Hurricanes fourth, Nashville Predators fifth, Winnipeg Jets sixth. But let's talk about it. I also want to say if you get an opportunity to go to any of these six arenas to see hockey, if you like hockey, I highly recommend just going to a game. I haven't had a bad experience yet. They've all been very good experiences. Regardless of the negatives I speak about in regards to my visits to these stadiums, all visits have been they've been fun, they've been pleasurable, they've been enjoyable. I recommend going to any one of these if you have a chance. Let's get started. Minnesota was my first trip, or my first visit of the two. The location is in St. Paul. It's not immediately in downtown, but it's close. There's a lot going on. I stayed at a hotel right across the street. Public transit, light rail is available, but it's a bit of a walk. I don't know. I didn't really want to have to figure out public transit and have like another half hour to 40-minute walk to get to the stadium. People from St. Paul and Minnesota, please feel free to correct me on those times. It looks like a longer walk. It was, what was it, like a mile and a half, 2 miles? I don't remember. I did this like a month ago. But the location is great. The area, the atmosphere is great. I don't know what happens in like the neighborhoods around it. I don't know how the crime is and stuff, but the immediate area of XL Energy Center had food and drinks, and the atmosphere was fun, and people were walking and crossing the streets and going to bars, and the pregame atmosphere was pretty great. The hotel I stayed at, everyone at the check-in counter had Minnesota Wild gear on, probably because it was a game that night, which I went to. But nonetheless, it was cool. I wore a Bruins hat without even thinking of it when I went to check in. It was just, I like to wear hats. I got some sassing from the hotel staff, which was deserved. So that was good. That was fun. The food and drink pretty good. No complaints. I'd say it's middle of the road. I didn't really get a full food and drink experience in St. Paul or the arena. The beer I had wasn't bad. The food was pretty good. It wasn't like awful, but it could be worse. It could be a lot better. Don't really take my opinion when it comes to food and drink at the XL Energy Center or the immediate vicinity. But the atmosphere was great. The stadium, the fans in the stadium were a lot of fun. Everyone with both teams, every team, all the fans at both stadiums were really watching every single pass, every hit, every shot. Wherever the puck went, that's where the eyes were. So that was really fun to see. Two of the most passionate fan bases, I think, of this list, definitely the two most passionate fan bases. Boston's up there. Nashville and Carolina can be up there. Not Washington. I'm sorry, Washington. But nonetheless, Minnesota and Winnipeg fan base is insane. The insanity is great. The intensity is high. It's just, it's kind of a crazy atmosphere. There's a whole State of Hockey song that played, and I didn't know all the words, and like everyone around me is singing all the words, and I felt like an oddball. It's like in school for us Americans, because it's a weird time. Back in the day when I used to go to school, you stand up in the morning, you look at the flag, put your hand over your heart, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance to your flag. Obviously, that's a weird thing to do for non-American countries, but like that's what it felt like. But not knowing the words and with the State of Hockey song, I felt like I was gonna get scolded for not knowing the State of Hockey song. So it was a really weird time. Nonetheless, hockey is a huge sport in both of these locations. It's a huge part of the cultures. I don't hate it at all. I think it's fantastic. Man, Minnesota especially needs some type of playoff success from one of their professional sports teams. What do they have, all four? One of those teams needs to go on a run. The Wild have been good. The Vikings have been good this year and seem to have fallen off. I don't really follow basketball that much. Just my Celtics are amazing, so that's all that really matters. Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. The Twins, we'll see. Sometimes they put together a good team, but never like a World Series caliber team. So, they need something to root for. At this point, hopefully it's the Wild. We'll see. Stadium was really comfortable. It was a beautiful stadium. Oh man, I was blown away. The little details, the lighthouses up in the corners, the wood on the what's it called, the jumbotron or whatever. The big screen that hangs over the middle of the ice with the wood. They had the wood, and it looked beautiful. On TV, it can look a little cheesy. It can look like laminate or whatever, and vinyl, like a cheap wood treatment. But in person, it looked nice. Don't know if it's actual wood or not, but it looked really nice and classy in person. Seats were padded, had plenty of space, cup holders, all that fun stuff. Plenty of bathrooms from where I was sitting. I didn't have to walk too far to go to a bathroom, but there may be seats, and I didn't go up in the balcony. Balcony may be a different story. Some stadiums cater to the lower section and have the bare minimum for the upper section, right? Boston was like that for a couple of years. They were in the process of doing a renovation, and they just renovated the lower bowl, the loge. And the upper balcony area kind of got forgotten about for a few years. And then they're like, oh, we should probably do something about it. But, it's one of those things. So I don't know how the upper balcony is in terms of bathrooms and amenities and food and drink in comparison to lower. I sat in the lower. So Minnesota, fantastic. I can't say enough about my Minnesota experience. It was incredible. The pregame was good. I don't have enough things to say about the Minnesota atmosphere. I wish public transit was more available, but from a design perspective, just because I'm really into public transit and it's part of my career. I don't know how public transit access would operate to Xcel Energy Center. You'd probably have to do some type of subway. You can't do streetcars. You can't do light rail to Xcel Energy Center. It's just not going to work. You have to really come up with some other treatment. You don't want to do raised railways, L's or whatever, L lines. It's a tough area to add public transit from what already exists. So it's just interesting. That's my one complaint. Onto the Jets. Again, the location is great. I value location significantly. If it's in a city, that's a great thing. I'm really appreciative of buildings that are in cities. I've been looking at Pittsburgh, and their stadium is in the city somewhat. It is in the city, not somewhat. My apologies. You can stay at a hotel. You can go grab like beer and food and walk to the stadium. You don't have to worry about driving somewhere and parking, and especially if you're flying up when you just want to take public transit. Dallas is a great example. Dallas, you can fly to Dallas. You can hop on the train, get to wherever your hotel is, whatever stop it's near. You can hop on the train again and then go just directly to the Dallas Stars Stadium. It's the American Airlines Center. I think that's it. But you have that option, whereas Ottawa, you have to have some type of car to get to the stadium. There could be shuttles and stuff, but I don't want to have to do this much research just to see a hockey game. But then, if you have to drive to a stadium, you have to have a car. So if you're flying up, you have to rent a car, and that's an expense. Then you have to park it, and you have to get a pre-paid parking pass and pay ahead of time. to reserve a spot? Do you pay there? Is it cash only? Do I have to go get cash from an ATM? If it's in Canada, do I have to like get Canadian dollars? And I don't know what to do with Canadian dollars once I like leftover Canadian dollars. Like I got to go back to the bank and try to deposit them into my account and have it converted back to America. It's a whole process. So location, public transit makes life a lot easier. And from the little public engineer in me, the transportation and design engineer with public transit scattered in there, stadiums in downtown settings are often more, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, nicer, not nicer, but like they fit in more seamlessly with the city. So I'm a big believer on location. I'm a big fan of location. I'm a big fan of intensity and atmosphere. And I'm a big beer guy, but I'm starting to realize that understanding the general food and drink scene in these various cities is going to be a lot harder to judge. I'm not getting the same thing every time I go to a stadium. I'm not getting the same style of beer every time I go to a stadium. So there's a little caveat with that. But the location, intensity, atmosphere, just general arena impressions are all pretty important to me and what I look for. Jets location was great. It's right in downtown. It's a beautiful arena from the outside, fits in very well with the surrounding atmosphere. Again, I was able to stay at a hotel and walk there. There were various buses. I'm sure the public transit's fine. Didn't want to figure out the whole bus system. So only staying in Winnipeg for a night. I think I stayed for a night. It was good. It's, Winnipeg. It's a good city. No complaints overall in Winnipeg. It's a good city. The food and drink were disappointing. I did have a good hot dog. It was at the stadium. It was like crispy, it had like that crisp break sound to it. It was like nice. It's also a hot dog. It is what it is. The beer was subpar. I had poutine, which was very subpar. I don't know how you screw up fries and gravy and cheese curds, but it just was. It was not great. I've had good poutine. I've had mediocre poutine. I've had various styles of poutine. And this just felt like it came from like a high school hockey concession stand, and it was a struggle to finish it, and I've never said that about poutine before, because those are three delicious things just all together, and you can't go wrong with it. So it was kind of disappointing. Don't know how you screw that up. The actual arena itself was unimpressive. I sat in the balcony. I took a little visit to the lower bowl as well. Concession stands were sparse, bathrooms were sparse. There's a lot of empty space, a lot of exposed concrete. It felt cold. It wasn't like warm and inviting. The stadium, the amenities itself were very, very subpar. Excuse me. Same with the stadium seats or the seating. It was like tight. My back was to the backrest thing. My knees were still in the person in front of me's like space. Man, I felt bad for them. I'm all squeezed in, and my entire legs on both sides, and my shoulders and arms are touching the people next to me. We're squeezing there like sardines. Don't go to Winnipeg to see the arena. Go to see the hockey game, the product on the ice, because the stadium's not great. It isn't great. It is what it is. That's not why you go to see a hockey game in Winnipeg, though. You go to see a fun team and an intense and insane fan base. This was for a hockey night in Canada when they played the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think I saw Minnesota play the Canucks at home. It was a hockey night in Canada. It was on Sportsnet. The Maple Leafs fans were there in numbers. Again, Winnipeg didn't have a team for however many years, and those fans start to transition to some other team. Especially the younger kids who grew up without having a team in Winnipeg, who like hockey and play hockey. You form some kind of connection to a hockey team. A lot of Toronto fans there, but it was good. It was fun. Didn't matter who you were rooting for. Everyone was really into the game. Toronto fans were overwhelming the Jets fans, but it was just one of those. It was one of those weird occasions where like, that doesn't happen every game, and it clearly doesn't. You can hear on TV people cheer for the Jets pretty loudly, and that place gets loud. So it was a weird but like cool and fun little atmosphere and game. I didn't really care who won. Wore Jets thing, whole Connor Hellebuck, wherever the 37 is. Reminded me of my college days, seeing him in net in college. But yeah, like I guess I root for the Jets. I'm at the Jets stadium. I'll root for the Jets. I want to experience the Jets, experience, and like I guess I root for the Jets more than I do the Maple Leafs. I guess, but nonetheless, it was fun. If you're looking to see the product on the ice and a fun atmosphere to be in, the Jets. If you're looking for a nice stadium, it's not the Jets. It just isn't. I don't know if for whatever reason any one of you have been to the Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore, Maryland, because similar vibes there, very similar vibes. The Jets stadium is a lot nicer than Royal Farms Arena, but nonetheless, again, you're not going there for the stadium. You're going there because there's somebody there you want to see, and that's the only option you have. Last note on Minnesota, the game I went to, it went into overtime. Kaprizov scored the game-winning goal in overtime. The fans were insane. Oh my God. The last 10 minutes of the game, halfway through the third period, the whole stadium is just standing, and every pass and puck is getting cheered or awed and booed, and that was just an incredible atmosphere. Yeah, these are definitely the two most intense fan bases I have interacted with thus far on my travels. I'd say Boston's in third, Carolina, Nashville. I'd probably give the edge to Nashville, but Carolina is up there. In Washington's, just the fan base isn't that intense. I'm sorry, guys. I live here, like in the DC area. The fan base it's not comparable to these other 5 teams. Beautiful stadium, beautiful arena, great location. I have a lot of positive to say about the Washington Capitals and Capital One Arena. The intensity of the fan base isn't on par with the rest of these teams. It's not to say that the fans don't care or aren't intense, because there's still, there's a hockey team here, and they sell quite a few tickets to tickets aren't all that cheap to go to a Capitals game. That's because people are buying them and there's a demand for them. So there's that. No disrespect to Caps fans. It's a very different atmosphere when you go to a Capitals game than any one of these other games for the most part. Playoffs are a different story, obviously, but we're just talking about regular season games. These are the 6 rankings so far. I'm going to the Winter Classic game in Boston on January 2nd at Fenway Park. The Bruins will be hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. It'll be a lot of fun. The Penguins have both teams are older and have a lot of players that likely have their number retired with their respective teams. Penguins, immediately, people that come to mind are, Crosby and Malkin and Letang, just to name a few. Boston, you have Bergeron, you have Marchand, who is starting to really make a case for, having his number. He's really starting to creep up in those all-time Bruins rankings lists. Pastrnak, assuming he signs a long-term extension with Boston, could be one of those guys that has their number retired. Chara just retired, so don't get to see Chara. Not that he played his last 2 seasons in Boston anyway, but so it'll be good. It'll be fun. I missed my chance in 2009 to see the Flyers play in Boston. The game's obviously evolved since then into a more skill-based, less physical game. These are 2 very old-school teams with 2 very new-school mentalities, so it'll be a fun game to watch. We got, me and my buddy Tom are going. We got good seats. We kind of lucked out with the seats and the price. But, give you an update with that. These are my top 6 rankings so far. Fenway Park will not be included in this because it's completely different. And I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go next. A lot of the East Coast teams are easier for me to get to and see, so I'm trying to do the more difficult ones first. Pending vacation time for my job and money and all that fun stuff. But like Columbus, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the Rangers, Devils, Islanders. I've been to Boston, D.C. What else? Toronto, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal. I've been to Carolina. The Florida teams, I guess, the flights are like cheap to get down there, and they're like 2.5 hours away from each other. So there's a lot of easier stadiums I can do. I'm not too worried about those. It's more of the ones like flying to California, flying to San Jose, going to Seattle, and then if I'm going to do Seattle, I may as well do Vancouver, and then just like this trip, I got to cross into Canada again, and probably have a rental car, and that's a whole process in itself. So there's more to come. This is looking like more of a long-term thing. See what happens. But so far, it's my list. Highly recommend if you get the chance, go to any of these. They're a lot of fun. Tell you how it is. If you have questions, specific questions about any of these, if you're thinking about going to one of these stadiums but want an honest opinion, I'll give it to you straight. I'll give you my experience. I'll give you the experience of other people. I have a lot of friends who have been to most of these stadiums. I guess 2 through 5. I might be able to reach out to some people for Winnipeg. Minnesota, I don't know anyone else that's been to the Wild Arena, but that was by far my favorite in every single aspect. So, honestly, I don't have much to say in terms of negativity with Minnesota. Food and drink experience was good. It's probably my most negative thing, but I don't have anything negative to say about it. So, highly recommend going to any of these if you have the chance and you like hockey. That's going to close out this video. You got questions, let me know. You got criticisms, let me know. We can talk about it. It's a fun time. This is just for fun. It's not like there's any official list or whatever, but that's it so far. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Take care.